get stuck in, let's cross and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you, and good evening to you. Well, the top story tonight at 6. Asylum seekers are due to be removed from the Bell Hotel in Essex after Epping Forest Council won a temporary High Court injunction. All migrants must now leave that site by the 12th of September, despite a last-minute bid from the Home Office to have the case dismissed. The ruling follows weeks of protest in Epping after a man housed at that hotel was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Council leader Chris Whitbread has welcomed the decision. He says tensions in the community risked irreparable harm. Lawyers for the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, and the hotel owners say they will be appealing that decision. Well, in other news tonight, Sir Keir Starmer has co-chaired a high-level meeting on security guarantees for Ukraine. That comes as Donald Trump is ruling out sending US troops on the ground if a peace deal is reached. Instead, the president suggested that the US could help by air, but warned that Vladimir Putin would face a rough situation if he refuses to cooperate in the peace process. It comes as reports suggest Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to a one-on-one meeting within the next 2 weeks. After yesterday's Oval Office talks, Zelensky has called the discussions significant and said Ukraine is already working on concrete guarantees.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
Sir Keir Starmer says the so-called coalition of the willing has already made some progress and will continue talks with Washington in the coming days.
Today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
Well, leader of the Lib Dems, Sir Ed Davey, spoke to us here on GBNews earlier, and he said the UK needs to increase its support to Ukraine.
I still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
Sir Ed Davey there speaking to us earlier today. Well, in other news tonight, a woman nicknamed the Ketamine Queen is set to plead guilty over the overdose death of Friends star Matthew Perry. 42-year-old Jasveen Sangha has agreed to admit 5 charges in Los Angeles, including distributing ketamine, resulting in death. Perry was found dead in a jacuzzi at his LA home in October of 2023. The coroner ruled his death was caused by the acute effects of the drug. Sangha is one of 5 people, including doctors and Perry's own assistant, accused of exploiting his addiction for profit and supplying the drugs that led to his death. Here, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is weighing up a major shake-up of property tax. She's considering a new levy on homes worth more than £500,000, which could replace stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The move comes as the Treasury explores fresh ways to raise revenue while still keeping Labour's pledge to protect the state pension triple lock. And drivers are being warned of major delays this bank holiday weekend, with 17.6 million getaway trips expected across the UK. The RAC says the South East and South West will see the worst congestion. They're urging motorists to set off early, or they say be prepared to spend longer in traffic. Friday is set to be very busy, 3 million journeys, then rising to 3.4 on Saturday, another 2.4 million forecast on Sunday, followed by 2.7 million hitting the roads on Monday. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for the news at 7. Now, though, let's get straight over to Michelle.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
And let's take a look at how the markets closed the day. Around half an hour ago, the pound is going to buy you $1.3524 and €1.1573. The price of gold is £2,469.15 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 closed at 9,184 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Thank you very much for that. And hello, good evening, each and every single one of you. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel. David Campbell-Bannerman, the former Tory MEP and former Deputy Leader of UKIP. And alongside him, I've got Bill Rammell, the former Labour Minister. Good evening, gents. You're very welcome tonight. As are each and every single one of you at home as well, tell me what is on your mind tonight. You can join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. There are lots of things that we need to discuss together tonight. So without further ado, the big news that I know will have got many of you talking. The hotel that many people would suggest basically is at the epicentre now of these protests that have been springing up and down the country. Of course, the one in Epping. Well, huge news coming from the High Court there today. So let's take a listen to Mark White, our home and security editor, with the latest.
Well, it's difficult to overstate the significance of the decision, the ruling handed down here at the High Court. Yes, a victory for Epping Forest District Council, but what it actually means is that those residents in Epping who've been so concerned for not just weeks and months, but for years about the Bell Hotel in Epping being used to house asylum seekers will now see an end to that process. Somani Hotels, who own the Bell Hotel, will have 14 days in which to get those asylum seekers moved out of that hotel. They've not been granted permission to appeal the injunction that was handed down here at the High Court. And of course, right across the country, where we're seeing hotel protests taking place because of a decision by the Home Office to requisition those hotels for use by asylum seekers, they'll be looking at this as a potential blueprint, other legal action that can take place that might just bring about the same results and end the use of their local amenity as an asylum seeker hotel.
Interesting stuff. Well, let's have a look as well then, shall we? The leader of Epping Forest District Council, what he had to say in response.
Clearly, the Home Office feel that this is something that will have widespread ramifications, that you are a bit of a test case.
Yeah, we may be a bit of a test case. I have to say I've been extremely disappointed in the Home Office from day one. They didn't listen, they didn't consult, they instructed, didn't consult, and therefore that's why they find themselves with this problem today. They need to address the issue at the borders, obviously, and obviously this our country's always been a fair country. We've always welcomed legitimate asylum seekers, but this is wrong. What's going on is currently wrong, and the government needs to get a grip.
You're disheartened by
I'll be taking you live to Epping very, very shortly to get the reaction from the locals there. But let me just bring you into this, David. I mean, I personally think this is huge news. I think there'll be lots of people up and down the country that are unhappy with these hotels in their communities, watching this and going, well, that approach worked. What do you think?
Well, I think it has worked. I mean, they are the district council and they have planning powers. And if this migrant hostel is not a hotel, it's not acting as a hotel, so it's basically breaching those planning powers. It doesn't have the right to act as it is now. It's not acting as a hotel. So in a way, it's a sort of quite a simple judgment, you know, that it is breaching planning law.
And that is the technicality, just in case people are not clear at home, that is the technicality for which the council was successful with this verdict today.
Yeah, there are others like this. I know in my own county of Norfolk, just up the road, they're challenging, similarly in Diss in South Norfolk, and there's plenty of others. There was a case in Great Yarmouth, also in the east of England. They all seem to be in the east of England at the moment, but on planning grounds again. And I think this is a case study. And it will have huge implications. So yes, it's a victory for common sense.
Do you think it's a victory for common sense, Bill Rammell?
No, I'm not sure it is. Look, I know the Bell Hotel very well. It's 5 miles from where I live, and I understand the concerns of local residents. But this is a temporary injunction. It's going to come back to court for a permanent decision. If that permanent injunction is put in place, all that will happen is that people will be moved into houses of multiple occupation. And that brings us many, if not more, problems than the use of hotels. Look, I want to get asylum numbers down. I want to dramatically reduce illegal immigration. But unless we're going to withdraw from the Refugee Convention, and until numbers come down, and or we provide alternatives to hotels, they're going to need to be used.
But that's what people want. So when you're saying unless we withdraw from this Refugee Convention, unless we potentially leave the European Court of Human Rights, people watching this will be shouting at their screen going, yes, that's what we want this government to do. Well, your government won't do that. Well,
if you look at the polling evidence, Michelle, a vast majority of people do not support withdrawing from the European Convention on Human Rights for all sorts of reasons. This is a hugely challenging problem, and the only solution is to drive numbers down. Now, the government has put in place a whole host of measures to achieve that, but, and I've said it many times on your programme, that will take time. Until we get to that position, we've got legally to house asylum seekers whilst their claims are processed.
Well, why don't you build facilities like the Nightingale Hotel then?
Well,
Nightingale Hospital, sorry.
Personally, I'm open to that suggestion, but one, it would require a massive capital injection, and I would support that, but opponents of this would have to recognise...
we spend, God only knows how many million, I've lost count now, quite frankly, of how many millions per day we spend on things like hotels. The capital injection is there on steroids already.
Yeah, no. And I'm saying I would support that, but you know, I can imagine the week after it happens, or it's committed to, there'll be opponents coming on this programme and saying it's a waste of public money.
No,
but I would support that.
Who would oppose that?
It would happen, trust me. But the bigger challenge is where you would locate them, because every area that you propose locating them, I bet your bottom dollar there would be significant local opposition.
Well, I mean, I think of the programme about Australia, £10 POMs, where they put, Brits going to Australia, thousands of them, in Army Nissan huts for years. Yeah, I mean, they weren't homes. There were some frustrations, but they were clean and they were looked after. They were looked after. I don't understand. We do have a lot of army camps around the country which we could use. Why are we forcing people into these hotels in breach of plan?
Well, OK, one of the army camps was in James Cleverly's constituency, and there was massive opposition to its location there, led by him.
Well, you had Scampton, you had RAF Scampton, actually, in my neck of the woods, and I remember that well. And actually what happened there, it was like a 24/7 operation. Those people were not messing around. They used to literally camp out there morning, noon and nights, because those locals didn't want people at that facility. And I've got to tell you, I remember driving past there one night, and you had like a circus. You had like an actual pop-up circus, like literally a couple of minutes down the line. And I used to look down the road and I used to sit there and I used to think, who makes these decisions that where you've got these kind of facilities where you're putting children's entertainment, that is a good location for these kind of bases? But the problem is, you tell me, ladies and gents at home, where would you be happy for these so-called asylum seekers to actually be housed? I can hear you. You're shouting at me. You're shouting at me nowhere, Michelle, and you're shouting at me. You want them actually being stopped from making those crossings. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it, David. They're not going to stop those boats. We might as well open the window now, round up a load of cash and chuck it out the window, and just whatever happens to it happens. Because when we give all of these hundreds of millions of pounds to the French, they're not doing anything with this money apart from probably laughing at us.
I mean, to me, you've got to get rid of the Human Rights Act. You've got to get rid of the ECHR. We've got to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And I don't accept that poll, by the way. Depends how you ask the question. we've got to get to the root of the problem. And I mean, to be honest, you know, you can have different accommodation, but people keep coming. We've got to put them off. We have to find a disincentive. And Labour have come in with no disincentive. They got rid of Rwanda. It's good enough for President Trump, who sent 250 illegals to Rwanda at our expense, I think. You know, we need a disincentive. And this is what Australia did. And they went from about 70,000 boat people in 1 year to 0. I met the minister, the Australian minister, who did that. That's what we need. We need a disincentive. And we don't have one at the moment.
Well, Michelle, you say that, you know, the French, the money is being wasted.
Yeah,
the French have actually changed the law to intervene in shallow waters against the boat crossers,
which is
and that is very welcome.
Yeah.
They've also agreed legally to the one-in, one-out agreement, which was actually first advocated by Robert Jenrick when he was immigration minister.
Right, two things. Don't make me laugh. When you say, well, we've changed the law to enable us to enact in shallow
the French
waters.
government has.
Yes, that's fascinating on paper. They are not enacting anything in a I could put my 5-year-old little boy in that shallow water and he'd probably be more effective at trying to stop those boats. They don't do a thing. Once upon a time, maybe once in a blue moon when there's a TV camera on them, they might make a performative kind of act of slashing one boat. We see these boats leaving shallow water all the time.
Yeah, and the agreement came in a couple of weeks ago, and the interventions are going to start in the coming
Ramble,
weeks.
I've lost count of how many people have crossed in those last couple of weeks.
You know, we're actually processing for the first time under the one-in, one-out agreement illegal boat crossers to return them to France.
Yeah,
that's a big change.
At our expense, by the way. Don't even get me started on this one in, one out. I'm itching to go on it, but I'll tell you someone that is itching to go. Patrick Christie's. We've sent him over to Epping. He will be taking us live and speaking to the protesters in a few minutes, but give us a flavour of it, Patrick.
Oh, well, hello, we are live from the Bell Hotel in Epping. How's everyone doing? Well, this is an absolutely historic moment. There is a jubilant mood here tonight because history has been made, and history that could be rolled out right across the country. The country is going to owe the people of Essex and the people of Epping a massive debt of gratitude, because today's court ruling could be rolled out in every single migrant hotel across the country. The people here have stood up. They've had enough. You can hear cars beeping. I mean, this goes all the way back. Let me just talk to someone. Let me grab someone here that we can talk to. Who wants to be on the telly? There's a lady in pink. There's a lady in pink at the back here. Now, the pink ladies have become absolutely synonymous with this movement here. How are you? Are you okay?
Thanks, yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Joe.
Joe, how do you feel today, Joe?
Elated, just delighted that, you know, it's paid off. We've been here week after week protesting, and it's worked, and we're all just so happy.
And this is what it's been about, you know, save the kids, protect the kids, you know, and we don't want to go into too many specifics, the active court case, but some incredibly dangerous allegations that have been levelled at a couple of people that have been inside this hotel. This is a victory for the women and girls, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Just to keep us safe, that's all. That's all we ask for.
Yeah.
Put us first, not these people.
Absolutely fantastic. Right, OK, let me see if I can rope someone else in here. Jamie McIver's with us. He's actually a regular on GBNews. So, someone with a megaphone at the back there, just in case you couldn't hear them. So, Jamie, what does this mean today?
This means so much to the people of it. How do we all feel, Epping? Because when we were told not to protest, what did we do? And when they called us far-right Nazi scum, what did we do? We ignored them, because we're not. We have been peacefully protesting, Patrick, week in, week out. We were told not to. Everything was against us. Everyone was against us. But do you know what? Nothing can beat the British people and their spirit. This constituency once had Sir Winston Churchill as their Member of Parliament. This is a constituency that knows when something is of national importance. And Epping has just done something very big today. And the whole country now, wherever there's a hotel, people need to peacefully protest. They need to frankly ignore their local councillors that tell them not to protest, and they need to go to those hotels. And it's all about women and safety of our girls and our children.
Absolutely. Well, look, on that note, just before we came on air, there was a bit of a chant. Was it protect our kids or save our kids? Was that right? Do you want to get that up? Because they're going to come back to us in a minute, so we might as well send us out with that chant, shall you? Go on.
Save our kids! Save our kids! Save our kids! Save our kids!
Well, there you go. That's the strength we're feeling here in Epping. It's back to you, Michelle.
Fascinating Exciting stuff. Patrick Christys, I'll be returning to you after the break. Richard, one of my viewers, says, hold on a minute, Michelle. This Epping victory is not a victory. It just shuffles the problem elsewhere to other people. What do you make to it? We'll return to Epping. Also, lots more coming up in the programme. The Reform UK Mayor, Luke Campbell, will be joining me because the downside of the UK-US trade deal means lots of job losses. I'll talk to him about that. See you in a minute.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me, I've got David Campbell-Bannerman, the former Tory MEP, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour Minister. We've been talking a lot about that hotel in Epping. One comment I've just seen is the following. What's just happening in Epping is ridiculous. Immigrants should feel safe coming into our country seeking asylum. This isn't, quote, a moment of relief. This incident is furthering a right-wing England to no longer decide to house people seeking asylum from dangerous countries is wrong. That's one comment. I can tell you now, there's a lot of people that strongly disagree with that and think that what's happening in Epping is, frankly, fabulous. I'll return to Epping and Patrick Christys there live with the locals in just a few minutes. But for now, we talk a lot, don't we, about the trade deals. Keir Starmer, quite proud of the one that he has worked on between the UK and the US. But what about the downsides of them over in my neck of the woods, Hull? There's redundancies there now planned because the UK's largest bioethanol plant will be no longer. The government has essentially refused to bail it out. Many people are very disappointed with that. The company themselves, Vivergo, have called it a massive blow to Hull and the Humber. I can cross now to Luke Campbell, who is the Reform UK Mayor of Hull and East Yorkshire. Luke Campbell, this decision, good evening to you, this decision has disappointed many people. Up to 60 jobs directly impacted, but some people saying potentially thousands more in the broader supply chain. Tell us your thoughts.
I think it's very disappointing by the government not intervening and helping out. There was one little clause in the UK-US trade deal what needed changing or amending, should I say, basically stopping the US from flooding our market with cheap bioethanol fuel. You know, they didn't need any subsidies. There was a company that funded everything themselves. This impacts 3 industries with actually carbon capture, the farming industry, and obviously bioethanol fuel. And it's such a shame to see it now fold, you know, when the government promised that they'd help save British jobs.
But the government, Luke, are saying essentially that a bailout would not provide value for money for the broader taxpayers. What they are saying is that this company, and in fact actually the broader industry, was struggling before this trade deal. They're pointing to things like high energy costs and things like that, that this particular company wasn't particularly profitable before this trade deal. So they're saying it's not a result of the government not helping. They're suggesting that a little bit of money from the government wouldn't really do much at all.
They was asking for no money from the government. They didn't need subsidies. They just needed to one little clause in this deal just be amended, which was to stop the US from flooding the UK market with cheap bioethanol fuel. That's all they needed changing. They weren't asking the government for money. They weren't asking for any handouts. They just needed that simple clause amending, and obviously they didn't want to answer that. And now in this region, we've lost up to 4,000 jobs.
Yeah, and I mean, so what you're talking about, just so the viewers understand, is there was a 19% tariff essentially on those imports. That has now been removed as a result of this trade deal. Tell us then about the mood of those local people.
Oh, I mean, we lobbied heavy for this. We sent many letters to the government, to the Prime Minister, to the Deputy, to the Ministers, fighting for Vivergo to stay open, to keep jobs for local people. And we was just getting literally nothing in return, and there was worry and panic going on. And, you know, we did our best lobbying for Vivergo, but at the end of the day, you know, we don't make the decisions that make the real difference, unfortunately.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's very sad news, of course, for all of those people that have been affected, and as you say, the wider supply chain as well. Let me move you on to a quick other issue. I wouldn't mind your thoughts on this. We've just been talking about Epping, a migrant hotel that's just been essentially closed by a High Court ruling today. We're from the same neck of the woods, Luke. We've got these migrant hotels in Hull and the surrounding areas. They're pretty much everywhere now across the country. What's your thoughts on these hotels? Do you think they should continue?
I feel like the people are going against this because they're not getting heard by the government, and a lot of frustrations happening, and I think it's unfair in what's going on.
But what would your message be then? Do you think that actually locals should call for the closures of those hotels? Do you think they're fine as they are? What's your thought?
My thoughts on that, it should be handed over to the local people to decide on whether they want them there or not.
Yeah, indeed, and I'd be fascinated. I think I can tell the sentiment of many local people in Hull. I can tell you that for free. Also, as well, just tell me before I let you go, Luke Campbell, I haven't spoken to you since your victory in that mayor seat. So tell me, how is it going? How is life? You were a former Olympian boxer. You've completely career shifted. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going really well. I think my main focus right now is making sure that I'm getting the right people in the team that's committed to the region, that's committed to want to make a difference, want to impact our neighbourhoods, our local communities, and that have got fire in the belly that, you know, really want to make a change and a difference. And, you know, I think it's so important getting the right people in for it.
What's the powers that be reaction been like to Reform UK? Because, of course, it's a brand new party up in that neck of the woods. Have people been open-armed, welcoming you productively?
It's had its challenges. You You know, there's a lot of obstacles in the way. There's a lot of different political parties that are playing games and, you know, got their own agenda going. And sometimes what people say isn't seeing what the actual actions are saying, really. They might be saying one thing, but their actions are saying another.
Two-faced people in politics, who would have thought it? Any regrets, Luke Campbell?
No regrets. I stepped up to try and make a difference. I want to give back to my community and do what I can to make this region a great place to work and also to live. And I will deliver for the people.
There you go, Luke Campbell, that's the Mayor of Hull and East Yorkshire. Thank you for your time there. And of course, very sad news for anyone that's affected by those job losses. David, your thoughts?
Yes, obviously, you know, I am very sorry about the job losses, and there's another plant I know is affected as well, and that's likely to close. I don't know much about bioethanol, but I know there's some controversy over basically using food for fuel, which has been going on for some time. And I know it's been struggling, that the industry sector has been struggling before these US tariffs. I don't think it's as simple as saying, you know, the US tariffs have caused this. So I think there's wider issues about this sector, but I am sorry that, you know, it has hit people hard in terms of jobs.
Of course, these are not great times at the moment, of course, for anyone. So the last thing that you want to be hearing is actually, that is it. That is your industry that you've known, that you've trained in, and it's essentially gone, certainly from that region. Bill Rammell.
Yeah, look, for the 60-odd people who've been affected by this immediately...
No, 160-odd.
No,
that was...
today it's 60.
Right.
Over the coming year, it's potentially going up to 180. But look, I feel for them. Anyone who loses their job in this kind of situation, it's a real concern. But before the US trade deal, and you referenced this, Michelle, the company was losing £36 million a year. The idea that any government can step in and bail out an industry that is that loss-making is simply not credible. And in terms of the US trade deal, overall, it's a big boost for British jobs and British businesses. Go to Jaguar Land Rover, go to the car manufacturers, go to the steel industry, go to aerospace. Yeah. It's massively boosted jobs.
Thousands of jobs, I agree.
Well, there you go. Are you one of those people affected? What do you think to it all? I can tell you the key topic that you're all getting in touch with me about, and I'll be crossing live back to Epping in a second, is this Epping situation. These asylum hotels will be getting the reaction live from the locals in Epping. Of course, now that judgment coming out today that does currently have to close. 14 days they've currently got. One of my viewers has got in touch and said, Michelle, what should be happening is that the migrants should be placed in ex-military camps, but contained. This has been the issue. People shouldn't be allowed to roam free in and amongst the communities when we don't know who these people are and anything about them, they say. One of my other viewers, Donna, she's got in touch and said, Michelle, the thing is, so many people in government are not affected by all of this. They live in posh houses. Lots of them have people like security. They don't understand what it is like for everyday people. And this is a sense that's really coming through, that actually, until you've been in this situation, until you've had one of these hotels and all the rest of it knocked up at the end of your road, it's very hard to understand the sense of concern that local residents have. So let's go back and talk to some of those local residents, shall we? Back in Epping in a couple of minutes.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, and more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The cloud thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again, for that journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A1 at Thistley Cross roundabout faces southbound restrictions due to a broken vehicle, so caution and extra time are advisable. An accident on the M4 eastbound between junction 48 at Hendy and junction 47 at Penlegar is causing disruptions. Kingston, upon Hull's 63 eastbound, has 15-minute delays. The M25 in Thurrock experiences 20-minute delays clockwise between junctions 29 and 31. Cornwall's A30 westbound is closed near the A3047 due to a major collision. And on the trains, watch for disruptions with Chiltern Railways between Stratford-upon-Avon and Leamington Spa. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Oh, hello. Alongside me, I've got David Campbell-Bannerman, the former Tory MEP, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour Minister. Welcome back, gents, to each and every single one of you at home as well. Look, the big news that you're all getting in touch with me in your droves is about the hotel situation in Epping. I can tell you now, there's two very different perspectives that have been shouted very, very strongly. There's one camp which is basically saying victory for Epping. It was essentially, the Bell Hotel was essentially the epicentre, if you would like, for some of these anti-asylum seeker hotel protests. Of course, now the court has ruled that essentially they have to close. It's a temporary injunction. They've got about 14 days to evict these tenants as it currently stands. Celebration on one side of the fence. The other side of the fence is saying this is appalling. It's not a problem solved. It is a problem moved. Let's listen, because the key people in all of this are the locals. So let's cross back live to Epping. Patrick Christie is there.
Well, hello everybody, welcome to Epping. In case you didn't know, this is now the most famous hotel in the country. It's the Bell Hotel, but the people of Epping, the people of Essex, have really done the country a massive solid here, because you can hear the horns beeping. This is the community coming out to support. This hotel is now not going to house asylum seekers, despite a last-minute attempt by the Home Secretary to get that injunction blocked. So there we go. I wonder if I might be able to talk to someone now. We've got his parents' permission, so don't worry. Now, you're 15. You're a young lad from the local area. Why do you feel so good today?
because I've been here protesting week in, week out for this hotel to close alongside all these people, and it's absolutely fantastic that they have finally listened to us and listened to our feelings, because we don't want undocumented male walking the streets amongst our young women and our young kids. It's not fair. It's not fair. A young girl was allegedly sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
These people aren't coming here for a better life or to live better. If they would send their women and kids on the boats, let them claim asylum and then come, because they would stay in their war-torn countries and fight and show that they're true men. But instead they're cowards and they're coming here to rule. That's what it is.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much. And, and as well, I think it's important to say as well that this has been done pretty much peacefully throughout. And sir, I know that we had a little chat earlier on, but we are live now.
Okay.
But I thought you made a really good point to me earlier on, which was that it's not about, being racist or people who want to come here legally to work and pay tax and all that stuff. This is about a sense of principle about people who come illegally, isn't it?
To be honest with you, I'm not being funny. If someone comes here, works and pays the taxes, right, then the British ain't got a problem with that. But when you come here, you don't do nothing and you get everything that you got the veterans on the streets, you got old people on the streets who get nothing. When you got these people getting nothing and you got these hotels that they're paying over ridiculous prices for, it's not fair, is it? It's not fair. Let's put our people first. Right, not being racist, but let's put our people first. Our veterans, our elderly,
pensioners, exactly.
Yeah. You got the pensioners. They're talking about the heat and all that. Let's sort our country out first.
Okay.
If we sort our country out, then we can probably give more to other countries.
Okay.
But let's sort our country out first.
Yeah, I mean, look, fair enough. I mean, this is the general mood that we can see here. I don't know if we can maybe just have a wander through, see if there's anyone else who might want to have a quick chat with us as well. There was a gentleman here. I see you've got your St George's flag on.
Always.
Look, how proud are you today of the local community?
Oh, amazing, absolutely amazing. We came out to set something out. I know the family that originally started coming up here, just a small handful of them. The Lambell family done really well. The community then came out to support them, and look what's happened. It's now been closed out, it's now done, and from what we've heard, breaking news, Broxbourne Council, the domino effect apparently seems to be starting.
That is interesting. Thank you, mate. I'm going to have to throw it back, but that is a good point. I don't know if you guys have picked this up in the studio yet, but we had a little message that came through here that another council has maybe looked at what's happened here in Epping, decided that they're going to have a bit of that, and they're going to try and do the same thing as well. And it could be that domino effect that gentleman was just talking about here. Just on the way in, by the way, you've got Union flags, the St George's flags hanging from lampposts, just all down, all on the way into Epping. It really is a beautiful sight. The locals here have protested in the right way, gone through the proper legal channels, and it's over to the Home Secretary now to decide what the heck they have to do about this. But I don't think you're going to put the genie back into this bottle. Back to you, Michelle.
Fascinating stuff. Patrick Christys, thank you very much for that. I might cross live to you back again before the end of the programme, but for now I shall leave you to it. And as I'm saying to you, ladies and gents, there are two very, very strong perspectives on this. You're just hearing that perspective there from Epping. Jubilation. Those local people feel they have scored a victory. I'm telling you now, the other side of this, I mean, David is giving them a round of applause. Let me just tell you the other side of this before I come back to David. The other side of this was people saying, well, hold on. Lots of people, I can see the conversation online on the likes of social media, saying that they disagree with this, that this is wrong, that all of these people coming over from France, what they're trying to do is essentially keep themselves safe. And actually, the UK has caused all of this mess by interfering with ourselves when it comes to foreign policy all over the lands and destabilising all of these countries. Many people, you've seen some celebrating tonight, many people, I can tell you, are actually mourning this decision tonight. You're not, though. You're giving it a round of applause, David.
Yeah, I'm giving it a round of applause. Well done, Epping. I think it's a very important judgment, and I think it will force the Home Office, who must be in full panic mode now, to review all these cases all around the country, because it's the same law. It's basically the misuse of hotels as hostels, and they don't actually have the planning go-ahead to do that. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens next, but it's a very important judgment, and it takes a lot of guts for a local council to stand up, and these great people here we're seeing on the screens, relentless demonstrations have really brought this about as well, demonstrating real support for this. So I think they should be very proud of themselves.
Well, I've got to tell you, I think they certainly are. Quick thought from you, and then after the break, I might come back and explore this question a little bit more about what does this mean for the Home Office now, but I'll come back to that in a second. But just a quick response from you, Bill.
Well, David, the guts of Epping Forest Council, the Bell Hotel has been used for migrants for 4 years, and this is the first time. And, you know, it's been...
Well, then it stopped for a while, and then it was restarted
but
again.
Over a 4-year period, it's been used for about 3 years of those as a migrant hotel, and all of it, as I understand it, in breach of planning regulations. Epping Forest Council
They've
did nothing
clarified the
about
law
it.
now, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, they have at the moment, but the problem is it just pushes the problem elsewhere. And I come back to the point, unless you're going to withdraw from the Refugee Convention, you're either going to have to put migrants in hotels, houses of multiple occupation, which I think potentially are worse, or detention centres. Whichever of those options you go for, local people and politicians are going to oppose it.
Well, what would you say then? In fact, actually, I might go back to Patrick and ask him to ask one of these locals that question then. Would they be happier with these men in HMOs, I don't know, in their residential streets? Is that the solution? I've got a solution. All these do-gooders that stand there saying refugees welcome and all the rest of it, open up your spare bedrooms. Why don't we create a little scheme so that anyone that's pro all of this stuff, as is their right to be in a democracy, what about their spare rooms? Isn't that a potential solution? Let's ask this question then. What does this mean for the Home Office and their strategy going forward? In a minute.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, Dewbs and Co till 7. David Campbell alongside me, and Bill Rammell. Lots of you are getting in touch off the back of, there's only one story in town as far as you guys are concerned in terms of what you want to talk about tonight, and that is the current closure of the Epping hotel, the Asylum Hotel. What does this mean, essentially, if anything, for the Home Office now? Has this undermined their strategy? Is it just a little bit of a blip? What's your thoughts?
Well, the Home Office strategy was already, during the course of this Parliament, to end the use of hotels. But I think immediately the government and the Home Office will let the legal process play out, because this is a temporary injunction. It will come back to the court. We'll see the result of that. I sadly think it is likely to increase the use of houses in multiple occupation, which I think in some senses is the worst solution. The Home Office might look at detention centres. I hope they will look, and the government is already looking at this, at offshore processing, which is not the same as Rwanda, which is temporarily sending someone to a third country to have their claim processed, and then either they come here because they're successful or they're sent away. And if I was in the Home Office, that's what I'd be strongly arguing for.
This is one of the things that I'm going to ask before I close. I'm going to go back to Patrick in Epping, and I'm going to ask him to ask one of those residents. You're celebrating tonight, and I totally get it, but would you be more comfortable then with people in HMOs? David Bannerman, your thoughts?
Well, frankly, I think we should look at things like caravans. I mean, here we are in August. There's thousands of people all around the country enjoying caravans. I think there is a problem over the standard set. You know, we need to look into that because they're too high, you know, 4-star hotels or whatever it is, which is annoying people.
David, come on, I know the Bell Hotel. Before it was used for migrants, only 1% of the rooms were used because it was basically a substandard hotel.
I'm not talking about the Bell, but I'm talking about a lot of others, actually. You know, I don't think, by the way, Scampton, I think that should be a base, that should be a museum for the dam busters, you know, and let's go for that.
Well, let's cross live back to Patrick Christing. He is with those locals in Epping. Patrick Christies, hello.
Yes, I'll come to you in a sec. Oh, hello, everybody. Hello, yes. Welcome to Epping, everybody. Yes. This is the Bell Hotel, where obviously they have won a historic moment here to get an interim injunction to get the people who are in this hotel moved out. It follows a couple of very, very serious and concerning allegations. But I just wanted to ask one of the ladies who's been pretty much never present at these protests. Firstly, how do you feel about the situation today, just quickly?
Oh, it's fantastic news. We're really, you know, the whole of Epping, the whole of the community, everybody here couldn't be happier with the outcome of today.
Absolutely. And one of the concerns, and Michelle wants me to ask you this, is about the idea that they might move people from this hotel and put them into houses of multiple occupancy just somewhere around the area. How would you feel about that?
That is something that we are really concerned about. You know, that is a major concern of ours, because then they're dispersed around the community and then we don't know where they are. At the moment, we know that they're all they're all at the Bell Hotel. If that does happen, then there's going to be protests outside every single house of multiple occupancy or every B&B. You know, we're not going to stop. The people of Epping are not going to stop until these undocumented men are gone from our community.
And tonight, as a woman in the local area, do you feel safer knowing that this hotel is going to be cleared out?
It will make me feel a lot safer, yeah, once I know that the residents of this hotel are gone. But if they are moved into HMOs, I'm not going to feel safe. I'm not going to feel safe for my daughter walking around. And we know that it's not just sexual attacks on women, because it's also been on a gentleman.
OK. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Again, I'll just say, look, obviously those are allegations. Well, just before, there was a bit of a Rule Britannia that went around. I don't know if you might be able to fire that back up. Is that possible? A bit of a Rule Britannia. Rule Britannia! There you go. Well, there you go. This is the feeling here from Epping. Back to you, Michelle.
There you go, Patrick Christies, thank you for that insight. I've got to repeat myself, though, ladies and gents. That is one perspective you are hearing, that jubilation. There is a very strong sense on the other side. They're saying that these so-called asylum seekers are being scapegoated. It's not their fault, that these people are vulnerable. They're in this country and they need to be put somewhere. Goodness gracious me. Tell me your thoughts and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Night-night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The cloud thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again, for that journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So Northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands, should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M4 eastbound, a collision between junction 48 in Hendy and junction 47 in Penlegaya is causing significant delays. In Surrey, a broken down vehicle on the M23 northbound between junction 9 and junction 8 has resulted in lane closures. The A38 southbound in Staffordshire has a broken down vehicle causing lane closures. The M25 clockwise at junction 30 in Thurrock is experiencing 10-minute delays. And on the trains, there are disruptions on cross-country services between Reading and Oxford and the Elizabeth line between London Paddington and Heathrow terminals. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
You've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you. This is GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dewberry, and of course, there's only one story in town tonight.
This means so much to the people of it. How do we all feel, Epping?
That's right, the good people of Epping are tonight celebrating after they won their historic High Court battle over the migrant hotel, the Bell Hotel, in their town. Asylum seekers now face being booted out of the Bell Hotel within 14 days. And today's ruling means the government's immigration policy, well, it's simply in ruins. I'll bring you a reaction from Labour, from the Conservatives and from Reform UK. And stand by to hear what their Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, has to say about today's massive developments. Believe me, you'll not want to miss it. And away from Epping, some senior figures urge the public to tackle shoplifters. I'll speak to one woman whose life was completely ruined when she did that precise thing just 10 years ago. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Epping, the Bell Hotel, has been seen as a significant victory, but I put it to you tonight. Is it a problem solved? Or is it a problem moved? Will these men be put simply into HMOs down the street in the same areas, or perhaps been foisted upon working class communities across the country who never had a say, find themselves the dumping ground for Liberal policies and working class communities being utterly transformed? But tonight is a night to reflect on a huge breakthrough for the great British public finally being listened to. But first, it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock, well, leading the news tonight, asylum seekers are due to be moved from the Bell Hotel in Essex after Epping Forest Council won a temporary High Court injunction. It means all migrants must leave the site by the 12th of September, despite a last-minute bid from the Home Office to have the case dismissed. The ruling follows weeks of protest in Epping after a man housed at the hotel was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Council leader Chris Whitbread has welcomed the decision today, saying tensions in the community risked irreparable harm. Lawyers for the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper and hotel owners say they will be appealing. Well, in other news, Sir Keir Starmer has co-chaired a high-level meeting on security guarantees for Ukraine, as Donald Trump has ruled out sending US troops on the ground if a peace deal is reached. Instead, the president has suggested the US could help by air, warning that Vladimir Putin would face a rough situation if he refuses to cooperate in the peace process. It comes as reports have suggested Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to a one-on-one meeting within the next 2 weeks. Switzerland signalling it's ready to host that conversation. Well, after yesterday's Oval Office talks, Zelensky called the discussions significant and said Ukraine is already working on concrete guarantees.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for trilateral meeting, and if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer says the so-called coalition of the willing has also made real progress and will continue talks with Washington in the coming days.
Today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
Well, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, has also commented. He says the UK needs to increase its support to Ukraine.
still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
In other news, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves is weighing up a major shake-up of property tax. She's considering a new levy on homes worth more than £500,000, which could replace stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The move comes as the Treasury explores fresh ways to raise revenue while still keeping Labour's pledge to protect the state pension triple lock. And Constance Martin is seeking permission to appeal against her conviction for the gross negligence manslaughter of her baby daughter Victoria. The Court of Appeal has confirmed tonight an application has been lodged after Martin and her partner Mark Gordon were found guilty in July. The judge accused them then of trying to sabotage and manipulate their retrial. Victoria's body was discovered in a shopping bag in Brighton in 2023 after the couple went on the run for more than 50 days to avoid social services. The pair are due to be sentenced on the 15th of September. That is the news on GB News. I'll be back with you for an update at 8 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Sam. Welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dewbs. And of course, there's only one place to start this evening. That's huge decision that could leave the government's migrants policy in complete and utter tatters. Asylum seekers face being kicked out of the Bell Hotel in Epping in the next few weeks, 14 days perhaps, we believe, after the local council won a temporary and historic injunction today at the High Court. Well, to talk through the ramifications of this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, and also down the line by the Labour peer, Lord Steve McCabe. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Richard Tice, I'm going to start with you. When this news broke this afternoon, we were cutting straight to residents in Epping, and something struck me. They are so awake to this situation now. They see today, of course, as a victory. But is it really a problem solved, or is it a problem moved? Might we see these same asylum seekers simply dumped into their community or others in houses of multiple occupancy pretty damn soon?
Well, it is a victory, and it's a very important legal precedent that is set. And I think that congratulations should go to the residents who have forced the council into pursuing this action. And what I can say is that reform councils up and down the country that we control are looking at this very rapidly to see how we can apply it, if possible, in our councils that we control and run, and I suspect many others will be doing the same. That's why I think it is such a significant precedent. But obviously the government, in its position, will be looking at what it should do. Should it appeal or not? I suspect that it will, because it faces the prospect, if many other similar judgments are handed down around the country, then they're going to have to empty hotels of many thousands of these asylum seekers who've come here illegally and put them somewhere else. And people with HMOs, where they should go is they should go to military bases, to detention centres, be rapidly processed, rapidly rejected their asylum applications, and rapidly deported. And I think this may force the government to act accordingly. Let's wait and see. There's going to be a lot of water passing under this bridge.
Lord Steve McCabe, let's bring you in now. There's no other way of window dressing this today. A huge embarrassment, a humiliation for the Labour government. The Home Office being kicked out, in this case, the people of Epping, victorious, and Lord McCabe, undeniably now, this will, sure as night follows day, start a ripple effect. The dominoes will continue across the land. It's no use anymore calling these people far right. Perhaps they're just right.
Well, I don't deny for a second that this will pose some problems for the government. They're already committed to phasing out the use of asylum hotels, and I think actually there were about 400 in use when Labour came to power, and that's down to about 200 now. So, I mean, that is the direction of travel anyway. Obviously, this decision will put an enormous pressure on the government in the short term to find alternatives, and that will be a problem. But, you know, I mean, I don't really think I'd like to see it as either a huge victory or a huge embarrassment. I think the reality is that there were some question marks that the council rightly raised about the behaviour of the hotel owners. I remember myself actually complaining when I was an MP and the Conservatives were in power about the use of certain hotels in Birmingham. I think in those days we were primarily concerned about what was happening to women and children in particular hotels in Birmingham. So, you know, I don't think this is, in the short term, this is a problem for the government because it does have to figure out what it will do. It's quite likely the alternatives will have to be a greater use of former military sites. I'm in favour of that, particularly, I think, for single young men. We will also have to look at specialist hostel provision where that can be done. There is a history of Britain doing this. It's a long time ago now, but that is exactly what we did with the Vietnamese refugees many years ago. And of course, actually, there's plenty of people who believe that asylum seekers should be welcome. So there's no reason why there shouldn't be an offer, a voluntary offer, of homestay as we've had for the Ukrainian scheme. And I think that people who want to welcome asylum seekers into this country, I'm thinking particularly about where we're talking about women and children, we should ask them if they want to make that offer.
The vast 87% of who come into this country are men, and 81% are men aged 18 to 39. It's a fantasy to keep repeating this myth that Darren Jones, the minister, came out with, that it's mostly women and children. It's a lie. Let's stop having this baseless, fantastical conversation.
I'm not repeating any myth. I'm saying that I think for young single men, the utilisation of former military sites is the best option. I think for some people, there is an argument for specialist hostels, and we have experience of having done that successfully in this country in the past, and that where we are talking about women and children, homestay is also an option. It's been used very successfully in parts of Germany. It would work, and if the numbers that you've just quoted are right, then a much smaller proportion of people would be eligible for that option.
Richard Tice, come in.
It'll be interesting whether or not the councils run by the Green Party and other sort of progressives, whether they make an offer to adopt and house those people from Epping. I mean, maybe that's the way forward to get through this. If different councils have a very different view to the majority view and they say, no, please come into our council, whether that's Bristol or Brighton, well, maybe that's the democratic solution to this. I suspect, actually, the residents of those councils very quickly would change their mind when they experience the consequence of that in terms of, regrettably, increased criminality in the area. But that's certainly something that could happen.
I wonder actually, Lord McCabe, if that's a decent point. Everybody that's expressed an opinion in the past for refugees welcome, that's got their voting record as individual parliamentarians, as councils. Let them take the lead. Like Donald Trump did in Martha's Vineyard, let's bust them to the constituencies of the MPs who say refugees welcome, rather than dumping them on working class communities like Epping, who consistently for years have said we don't want them in our area.
Well, I don't want to see refugees dumped on anyone, but we're not actually talking here about refugees, are we? We're talking about people whose claims have not been processed. We're talking about asylum seekers, so we don't know how genuine they are or not at this stage. I personally think that if councils believe they can accommodate people and that it would not cause distress in their local authority area, then of course they should come forward and do that. As far as I know, that already happens. I didn't know there was any particular problem. And as I understand it, the issue that was raised in Epping, the basis of the court case wasn't that the council in Epping was saying we cannot have asylum seekers. It was saying that the owners of this hotel have changed the usage of these premises without consulting the local authority, and therefore we're in breach of planning regulations.
But Lord McCabe, that will not be the message that the British public see tonight. They will see the message that if they stand up, if they unite, they can change the minds of parliamentarians who have been tin-eared, utterly tin-eared on this for years.
Well, I mean, I'm simply making the point to you that that is the case. That was the basis on which the court case was taken. It wasn't that the council were saying we cannot have asylum seekers here. That just wasn't what happened. What they were saying was there has been a breach of the law here.
But I think that's likely to be the case in a significant number, possibly the majority of the hotels, where if it's a planning basis, as Lord McCabe has just inferred, that will apply to a vast number of other hotels, and indeed that has successfully been tried and adjudicated on, I think, a couple of years ago.
Okay, gentlemen, on my show earlier, I had the Shadow Home Secretary on, Chris Philp, playing politics around this issue, as you'd expect. Let's take a listen to what he said.
I have been picking up that the Labour government's plan to try and reduce hotel use is simply to move people out of hotels and into flats, into HMOs, houses of multiple occupation, which of course would ordinarily be used by young people who are long-term UK residents. But look, the real solution to this problem is to stop illegal immigrants coming here in the first place. It's to deport them.
Chris, you say they shouldn't be in the first place, particularly in Epping. It's fair to point out, is it not, that the Bell Hotel in Epping was opened by the Conservative Party?
Yeah, and we're under new leadership and we have a new approach. I don't think that hotel should be there at all. I think all people who cross the channel illegally, and it's, by the way, it's mostly young men from France, should be immediately removed.
So Richard Tice, Steve McCabe there. We saw Chris Philp ostensibly blaming the Labour Party. I merely pointed out to him that it was the Conservative Party that racked up the use of asylum hotels, and particularly the Bell Inn in Epping was opened by the Conservatives, Richard Tice.
Well, you quite rightly just reminded Chris Philp that it was all of this started under the Conservatives, and their failure to process people rapidly and promptly has led to this huge backlog inherited by the Labour Party, and they don't appear to be getting on top of the backlog. The important thing to do, actually, is to do what the Labour Party did literally 20 years ago, when people were processed in the space of about 2 to 3 weeks, including an appeal. And back then, only about 20%, give or take, were being accepted. Now it's about between 70 and 80%. So the Tory Party are seriously culpable for this chaos. But unfortunately, the Labour Party hasn't got on top of it, and the consequences are plain for all to see with the illegality that is going on around it.
And Lord McCabe, is this the time now where you can say this is a technical point on the Bell Hotel? The public don't see it as that. They see this as a breakthrough. And more to the point, 1 year on from Keir Starmer calling people like this far right, has this government, like the one before it, spectacularly misjudged public mood? And is the genie out of the bottle now? This is but one hotel, but this will not go away. I've been speaking to people in Epping earlier on who said they're going to be going out and protesting outside every HMO in their area. I suspect, Lord McCabe, that might be echoed across the country.
Yes, it's possible it will. I mean, I do come back to the point that there was a point of law on which this was judged. Now, I don't personally welcome demonstrations outside hotels or anywhere else, because I think they do have a potential to turn violent, even if the vast majority of people have no intention of that being the outcome. I think there is always a risk. So I don't really welcome that in the slightest. I absolutely understand people's frustration. And, to be perfectly honest, I feel just as tempted to rant and rave as a lot of other people, because I'm frustrated about it too. But the reality is, people in government and people in positions of authority are required to obey the law and abide by the law and make their actions consistent with the law. And, that's what makes this country different from a lot of other places. So, we cannot just have people coming up with random ideas. Chris Phillips saying we'll deport everyone. Well, if it were possible to do that, I assure you it would be done. And I suspect when he was in power, he would have done it too. That's just not as straightforward as he would like to kid on.
Two things. Firstly, it is possible, but it requires the commitment and conviction of the Home Office personnel to do it.
You have to know where you're deporting.
Absolutely, but here's the point. Here's the reason.
It originate from. That is the fundamental problem.
They know, and that's a myth. They know the vast majority of where these people are from. The second point is actually, I don't believe that Epping Council would have pursued this action unless you had had the significant residents' lawful, peaceful protest that's taken place. And I question whether or not the judge would have reached his decision unless he was aware, I think it was a he judge, male judge, of those protests. So actually, I think those lawful, peaceful protests have had a significant influence on today's outcome.
And Steve McCabe, is that not the point? Like I said, the genie is out of the bottle now. 1 year on from the riots post-Southport, Keir Starmer is no nearer to controlling the public mood than he was then.
Look, the issue of mass asylum seeking, the issue of the boat crossings, the issue of the gangs, no one is pretending it is not enormous, and no one is pretending that the public are not right to feel unsettled and angry about it. Absolutely. But I say to you, this government has been in power for just over a year. They have actually succeeded in cutting asylum hotel use by over 50% in that time.
The trouble is, though, Steve, over 51,000 illegals have come in that same time.
Yes,
it's a drop in the ocean.
I say to you, if there was a simple, glib, it's easy to give simple, glib phrases on programmes like this to you, Martin. But if there was honestly a simple, glib answer, do you think people wouldn't do it?
Yeah, well, I do actually. I do think it takes courage, it takes leadership, and we haven't seen that from the Conservative government or this Labour government. That's the reality.
OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. A superb debate. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, and also the Labour peer, Lord Steve McCabe. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Now, the Border Security Minister, Angela Eagle, told GB News this. This government inherited a broken asylum system. At the peak, there were over 400 hotels open. We will continue working with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns. Our work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament. And we will carefully consider this judgment. As this matter remains subject to ongoing legal proceedings, it will be inappropriate to comment further at this stage. And I've lots more after the break on this huge story. And I'll be speaking to an Epping councillor who's celebrating rightly tonight. And also a legal expert will tell me what he thinks will happen next. That's next with me, Martin Dewberry.
you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dewberry. Now let's get more on what is, without doubt, today's biggest story by a country mile. And it's a turning point in the country's migrant crisis. And it's, of course, asylum seekers face being kicked out of the Bell Hotel in Epping, perhaps within 14 days, after the local council won a temporary and historic High Court injunction blocking migrants from being housed there. Let's cross directly to Epping and speak to the Conservative councillor, Holly Whitbread. Holly, a pleasure to have your company. No doubt we've seen jubilant scenes there on the ground in Epping, but is the battle just beginning? A lot of people telling me in the area they now fear this could be HMOs coming at them.
Good evening, and it's really good news for the residents of Epping Forest this evening, and a message to the government as well. And the council chose to take a slightly different approach with legal action in going for the hotel owner on a planning point, and that's proven to be successful with the interim injunction granted, which will see the Bell Hotel closed in 14 days' time, hopefully. So this is really positive news for the people of Epping. What I would say is there's talk of HMOs, and one point I've made throughout is not for the people of Epping or the district council to come up with solutions for housing for this illegal immigration crisis. It's up to the government. Of course, the use of HMOs would be absolutely wrong as well, and I think there's actually planning points that they could be challenged on too. It is just wrong, and this is the case in Epping, and why as a council we've opposed it from the very beginning, and when it was open under the last government, my government as well. It's not right to have undocumented males in the middle of a town, steps away from houses and a local school, and that's why we fought it, standing with and alongside the residents who also wanted it closed down.
And Holly, we saw some astonishing scenes, of course, in the past few weeks, where the police were walking in, stand up to racism protesters and shipping them out in one of those riot vans we can see there. And in many senses, Epping became an epicentre of the country waking up, seeing, particularly I would like to say through GB News, the full reality of what's going on here. Outsiders, agitators, the far left being shipped in, shouting fascist scum off our streets to your constituents. And I think the people now, the public, are totally awake to this. And I would say Epping has been an epicentre of that national awakening.
I think we certainly have been leading the way. I mean, as a district council, we've been calling for the closure for some time, and it was the awful incidents which happened from residents of the hotel with the alleged sexual assault, which really kicked this into motion. And as a council, we've been doing all we can democratically and diplomatically to really try and pull the levers and see what we can do and stand side by side with those peacefully protesting, and actually just the residents in the high street. I've lived in Epping my whole life, and the message from most people is they want the hotel closed. They're worried and concerned about what the hotel means for local people. I would say a lot of people didn't like the disruption which came from the protest and the fact that Epping has become in the spotlight. But, you know, we've as a council and as a local council, we've tried to fight this in the best way we possibly can, and today is great news.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, Holly Whitbread, and perhaps now go and enjoy a glass of something fizzy and cold. Pleasure to have your company, thank you. So the people of Epping have won, at least temporarily, but what happens next? Well, tell us what might happen next. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the barrister and the writer, Stephen Barrett. Stephen, always a pleasure to have your company as well. Let's start with, frankly, utter farce at the High Court earlier on. The Home Office, this 11th hour interjection was thrown out by the judge, and you might say fittingly.
Yes, so I want to be very clear, Martin. Our legal system is fat and absolutely bloated, and as a result, it sort of doesn't really work. It's copied on a European model, and the Europeans can make it work because they have a pet court that will do as they're told. We have really good judges who just apply the rules, and what the government had not realised is that actually they were breaking planning rules by filling all these hotels with migrants. And that's what this has confirmed. And if one hotel in Epping is breaking the law by filling it with migrants, then, Martin, I don't know if the government's sitting down while it hears this, but every hotel is.
So, Stephen Barrett, you're saying on GB News tonight, this is the beginning of a chain reaction the government has no control over.
Yes, and I'm going to step into the fray, Martin. I don't normally like to. I'm quite an inactive type of person. But I'm going to launch a campaign to raise funds to allow people who in their locale wish to bring these challenges, because not everybody will have a councillor like Holly Whitbread. Okay, not everybody will be blessed with Epping Council. There are councils who will not challenge the migrant hotels, and that's not fair to any of us. It's a point I like to make really vociferously, Martin. We are a multi-ethnic country already. This was never about race. This is about safety, and every single one of us, every single British citizen is entitled to safety. And so I will start this. I don't want to be accused of, profiting from this or benefiting or anything else. So I have to work it out. But it's about time we replicated their model. Those councillors, a district council in Essex has stumbled across a genius solution in our fat and bloated legal system. And one of our High Court judges, the judges I do praise, by the way, Martin, they have upheld the law. They've not behaved like a pet court. They're not some kept little servant or slave of the government that has to do as it's told. They actually apply the law. And the government made all these laws. Well, it's made a bloated planning regime. We all know this from the Bat Bridge. Do you remember that with HS2 or anything else? Well, by their, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. And they have hoisted themselves on their own petard here, because quite clearly, Martin, just to be absolutely clear on this, what this legal point is, a hotel is a place where people come and stay for short periods of time and is open to all the public to book. We have, by the way, equality laws, meaning that they have to be open to all of us. Literally, they can't discriminate against you because you're very tall or me because I'm bisexual. That they have to let us all come and stay for a short period of time. Well, none of these things do this. They've changed them with a click of their fingers. They've changed them into residential accommodation blocks. Well, they can't do that. And that's basically what's happening.
Stephen Barrett, you sound like a coiled cobra. And to quote Baldrick, it sounds like you have a cunning plan. I look forward to getting you on the show again in the future to feel the full details of that. Stephen Barrett, beautiful stuff. Thanks for joining us on GB News tonight. Well, you heard it here first. There seems to be a cunning plan afoot. More on that next time. But for now, I have lots more on this story throughout the evening here on GB News. But next, with more and more people urging the public to stand up to shoplifters. I'll be joined next by a woman who was attacked when she did just that 10 years ago, and it ruined her life. It's an astonishing story, and that's next.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The clouds thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of
drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again, for that journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dewbs & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dewberry. It's 7:37. Now, with the shoplifting epidemic getting worse and worse with every single passing day, the public is facing more and more calls to challenge people who steal from shops themselves. But one woman who did precisely that 10 years ago had her life changed forever. And a warning that we're about to show an image that may be distressing to some viewers. Emily Martin from London, you can see on your screens there now, was punched in the face and she was overheard telling the manager of a Tesco store in Hackney in East London that she'd seen a gang of teenagers stealing sandwiches from a shop. I'm delighted to say that Emily Martin joins me now, looking much better. I mean, Emily, thanks for coming in. Traumatic tale. Now we've got the police saying that more people should put themselves in danger, as you did. You stood up, you were a have-a-go hero, and you got yourself in a bit of a pickle. Tell us your story.
So, just to be clear, I did speak to a member of staff, so I didn't actually approach the shoplifters themselves. I wouldn't advise that. But it was in 2015. I was in a Tesco in Hackney, and I saw a group of teenagers shoplifting, and I was brought up well by my mum, so I thought I'd do the right thing. And also, if you don't nip that behaviour in the bud, then where does it end up? So I reported it to a member of staff, I did my shopping, and basically when I left the store, I was punched in the face by the gang of teenagers. They must have seen me tipping off the member of staff or something like that. So,
as we can see on our screens there now, I mean, this... You took a real pounding.
Yeah, it was one punch as well. It was, yeah, it's quite harrowing, isn't it?
You did the right thing. You know, you're beautifully well brought up, Emily. You know, didn't occur to you, perhaps, that this may occur to you. It did occur to you. And it not only clearly physically hurt, but it traumatised you.
Yeah, I think I just had this illusion that safety nets that were there for the public, you know, for victims, would, you know, actually do something, that a security guard would do something about, you know, the kids shoplifting, that Tesco's would do something, they'd be apprehended, that the police would come. None of that happened. So I didn't expect to be punched, obviously. I didn't expect that. But then 10 years on, I can honestly say that nearly every sort of, you know, support network that's there for victims just failed me. I mean, the NHS were excellent in their response initially. The Royal London were fantastic. I had 2 operations on my nose and my eye. Simon Holmes's team was excellent, Professor Simon Holmes, but subsequently I've now been on a waiting list for 18 months for chronic sinusitis for an operation that should take half an hour. I've needed to go to a second hospital to be added to another waiting list. And that is all from the initial punch 10 years ago.
And you've been taken care of by the NHS physically, but as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody was ever nicked for that crime? Nobody's ever apprehended? No. No suspect was ever identified. How can that happen? I mean, you can't walk down the street without being on CCTV.
Hackney Central is...
Hackney, I know Hackney. There are cameras on every street corner. Tesco itself, riddled with cameras. How were these people not nicked?
Well, yes, that's a good question.
I think it's a question that people watching this will be exasperated about, Emily, because... They despise shoplifting on this channel, and the police say, well, you should intervene to stop them. But your tale is more than cautionary. It's been a nightmare for you. You did the right thing. You're a stand-up citizen. You had no help from the police. They seem to show no interest. You've been injured.
I don't feel as though
How do you feel now, then, when you hear police and crime commissioners, you know, Matthew Barber, Thames Valley, saying more people
It frustrates me. It really frustrates me. And that's why I contacted him to say, do you realise what you're asking members of the public in doing this? Because this is my story that maybe you haven't realised. But, you know, victims do actually go through a lot of, you know, a lot of things after an attack like that.
What did you say to him, and did you get a reply?
He did reply, yeah. He wrote me a very pleasant response and took the points on board. I suggested some sort of policy changes or areas for reform.
What would you like to see done?
I'd like the police to be able to consider the victim more, and I was asked to attend the station at between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. at night, in the nights following the attack, which was not for my safety. It was to fit into the detectives' rota.
But you're a woman who's been brutally attacked. You don't want to go to a cop shop
with a huge.
You don't go to the cop shop at 2 in the morning.
No, exactly. So just that alone, it would be good if the police could at least sort of think of the victim with more in mind than their own schedules.
Emily, when you see the figures are startling now, 500,000 shoplifting incidents last year alone, it's like a 20% increase you know, in 2 years. When you see now that like 7 out of 10 incidents aren't ever apprehended. Nobody even bothers to turn up to supermarkets if there's theft anymore. It's something like 1 out of 20 muggings get solved. Do you think things have gotten any better since all this time ago when this happened to you?
Oh, no, they've got worse. They've definitely declined. Absolutely. But I think that there's so much that hasn't been addressed since then. And even at the time, I was trying to make these points, but things have definitely declined. And also with the cost of living, I imagine shoplifting has gone up alone for that. So
do you think it's just an economic thing, though, or is it something else? I mean, we hear from police officers all the time who come here, there seems to be a complete disregard for law and order, particularly amongst the youth.
I think it's just that people know they can get away with it. So crime breeds. I think that is a huge issue. So unless there is a police presence on the street, a visible one, then there's no deterrent. And obviously, if there's no, you know, if you can get away with shoplifting £200 worth of stuff and not be charged, then obviously that's no deterrent either.
We hear stories on GB News of shoplifters. Let's change. Let's call them what they are: thieves, thieves with over 80. Convictions. So heaven knows how many they got away with. But they've been nicked over 80 times. They never see a jail cell.
Yeah. They're like, there's no room in the jail cells anymore.
But you raise a great point. I mean, if we're seeing dangerous criminals, such as sex offenders and rapists and violent thugs being released because the NICs are full, again, it's back to your point. Where's the deterrent?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge issue. I also feel like they, in terms of the Criminal Injury Compensation Authority and back to victims, in terms of the way that they drag these things on for years, and that is a government scheme that's meant to be there for victims of violent crime. And it's just years of bureaucracy. It's not there to really kind of be kindred to the victim. It's really there to try and protect the public purse, which is actually something they say.
Is that another failure, would you say, of victims like yourself?
Absolutely.
It's like they don't. No one's ever been arrested for what happened to you. No one's ever seen a criminal record, let alone the inside of a prison cell. And then when you try and get financial retribution, which you're entitled to, you've been violently assaulted. It's just endless bureaucracy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was almost made to feel like I was the criminal, sort of in answering to a tribunal, because initially they threw the claim out erroneously, so it had to go to tribunal, and I was needing to give evidence and try and sort of argue my way into why I should be.
And you're clearly intelligent and articulate, and you're able to, you understand the law. You've had to form a working knowledge of it. Many people wouldn't. They'd have given up. And that's another thing.
Absolutely.
Is this also, every time you go through this process, Emily, in a sense, I hear so often, you're re-exposed to trauma. PTSD.
Yeah,
I've had to go back through what happened to you.
Yeah, the Criminal Injury Compensation Authority scheme was extremely re-traumatising and wasn't worth the what I get out of it, essentially. And obviously with the NHS mental health, pretty much a mirage. I'm yet to have any kind of PTSD or therapy on the NHS to address this.
Do you feel abandoned by the system?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Forgotten or just set aside. So that's why I was so concerned when I read Matthew Barber's comments, because, unless you've experienced it, you wouldn't know. So I'm hoping to shine a light on that, basically, and hopefully make a bad situation have some good come out of it, really, with some change.
Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight. You're a wonderful woman. You've done the right thing. So at the end of the day, you were brought up well. You did the right thing. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for coming in. Keep going, and let's stay in touch.
Okay.
Emily Martin, absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, a Metropolitan Police spokesman has told GB News this regarding this case. This was investigated thoroughly at the time, and regrettably, we were unable to identify a suspect. The Metropolitan Police is working to support shopkeepers and tackle theft in the capital this year, solving 163% more shoplifting cases than in the same period last year. Thanks for that. Thanks again to you, Emily Martin. Pleasure. Now, we've all seen images of Tower Hamlets Council pulling down St George's flags from lampposts. But it gets worse. Today, there are now calls to ditch the flag altogether, with a professor of black studies saying it actually represents white supremacy. More madness around flags. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, and more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. He can say whatever he wants. A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Well, we've all seen St George's flags being torn down by councils, but now Kahindi Andrew, he's a professor of Black Studies at Birmingham University, he said that flags represent white supremacy. Well, I'm joined now by the footballer, the legend, the broadcaster, Mickey Quinn. Mickey, what's this guy been smoking? It's ridiculous. The St George's flag is amazing.
Martin, when you rang me up and said, you know, you're coming on the show, I thought, well, to start the Premier League, Isaac, is he going to move to Liverpool? But no, it's about the good old flag of St George. And you're right, what is he on? I mean, it's probably one of the only things we could be proud of as an English nation. And I was so proud, the ladies, you know, when they won the Euros, first thing they said, I'm proud to be English. When Bobby Moore picked up the Jules Rimet trophy, them English flags were flying. Proud that, you know, they were back, England were back, and something to sing about and something to be proud of. So, I mean, he can't take it down, can he?
Yeah, and he's on about having a multicultural flag. I would say no. We're not having a multicultural flag. We've got a flag that works for us, and it's beautiful. Mickey Quinn, it's a short blast, but it's always beautiful to have you on the show. We have to leave you there, mate. I know we're running out of time.
Quick one. Tell him to go to Scotland to take the flag off them up there. See how he gets on.
We'll take down a Palestine flag. Mickey Quinn, you're exactly right. Beautiful stuff. Thank you very much. Now, State of the Nation is up next. Thanks, mate. So Jacob Rees-Mogg is in the studio. What's on your menu tonight? A topic close to your heart?
Well, the main thing I'm talking about is that NICE, that decides whether drugs are funded or not, has decided not to fund Brineura, which is a drug for Batten disease. Batten disease is a disease that kills children. And with this drug that's been given out since 2019, children live a much better life. Indeed, it does better than the maximum on NICE's own judgment of whether drugs are worth funding. It exceeds its own model. And yet NICE is withdrawing this funding, which is a death sentence for children. It means children will die because they're not going to get this, and I just think this is tragic and must be changed.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, straight from the heart. That's next on the State of the Nation. Thank you very much. Now, I'll be back tomorrow 3 till 6 p.m. Have a fantastic evening first. Here's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The cloud thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again for that